Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video, I'm going to be showing you my newest custom. Now, if you guys remember a little while ago, I did, Shaft. Couldn't think of his name for a second. Shaft from Youngblood, the Rob Liefeld guy with the red and the white and the arrows and the orange hair. I made that, and my customer was like, yeah, this is really cool, I like this. Can you make me another character from that comic series? And I said, sure, let's do that. So we did this, and this is DIEHARD. He's on a much thicker body than Shaft. He's using the new Grim Reaper Captain America. Many people have used it now, but that newer body, which is a lot thicker. So let's get him off the stand, and I can show you a little bit about, what I did. Wow, I can't English. Let's just get him off the stand. Okay, so the trick for this guy was I had to basically resculpt his arms completely. As you can see, he's got those robotic gold parts on there, and I couldn't just throw those on top of the arms. I needed him to be bulkier anyway, so I sculpted the arms basically from scratch. I left the elbow, I think. Yeah, I didn't touch the elbow, and that was about it. Every part of the arm is sculpted there, and I sculpted the strap across here, sculpted the wrist straps and the boot straps down there, and I had to sculpt pouches going all the way around his legs, which is not fun, but I think it looks pretty cool once it's done, so it's okay. And then I had to just give him a new head. So I took a Grim Reaper head and I left the eyes alone, and I resculpted the ears area and the whole face area to give him this kind of, looks a lot like Moon Knight, which is all it's supposed to look like, but that's what it is, so I did that. And then he has these weird tube things that go around his shoulders, and there's no good way to just sculpt a tube around the shoulder because I needed to maintain the articulation, and I needed to somehow sculpt a tube, which that was not going to work out well. So, on my Patreon, I go into depth on how I do these kind of things, and I show the process for making the figures. So if you guys want to check that out, that would be something I would encourage. But I'll go over it briefly on here just for everybody else to know. What I did was I took some flexible tubes. They're kind of squishy. And what I did was I actually drilled a hole into the end of each tube and put a pin in it to make it a ring shaped instead of just having a straight like Apocalypse tube. I connected them that way, and then I put studs into the torso and drilled holes into the sides of the tubes and glued them on. So they're only connected at the top and at the bottom, so they're actually flexible on the sides and on the back. Obviously, if you push in, there's nowhere to go, but they're not connected on the front. And I did that so that they wouldn't impede the articulation at all. He should be able to pose the arms. Now, granted, this figure, the base figure, and I made sure he was aware of this ahead of time. The shoulders kind of suck on this base figure, but he wanted to use it anyway, so I did what I could to make sure he had as much articulation as possible by making those kind of floating. And once you pose him, you can't tell that they're only connected in a couple of areas. And we just really didn't have a choice because it's a lot easier to draw something unrealistically than it is to sculpt it. So anyway, as far as the figure goes, the blue is actually really dark blue with two different lighter blues on top of that. Not very much lighter, obviously, because it's still fairly dark. The white is gray with white airbrushing on top of it to give him the shadow effect. I don't like real heavy shading on white, but you can see it's in there. It's just very faint, so there's a little tiny bit of gray shading throughout that. And then the darker red is just darker red with some even darker red in the recesses. And then I made the tuber things a brighter, more metallic red. And then I painted the gold, which just needed to look like gold on there. I didn't want to add black lines in there, even though in comics, obviously, they're drawn with black lines. It would have taken away from the metallic look of the gold. So I just left the gold super bright, and then I made bright red eyes for him because that's what he's supposed to have. And then for the head and like for all of this stuff, I painted it in by hand for the base colors, and then I taped it off where I painted it, and then I did my dry brushing on top of that, or my airbrushing on top of it, whatever was necessary. So I guess that's it. Not much else for me to talk about. This was a pain in the butt. These are a pain in the butt. Sculpting arms is a pain in the butt because you have to pop the arm off, sculpt it, and then pop it back on, and with a pressure fitting, you have to be careful not to break everything. So if you're doing that, good luck with that. And I also had to hollow out the wrists and account for the extra thickness in the arms for the elbows. Lots of technical stuff like that. But if you guys are out there trying to accomplish stuff like this and you're looking for some tips and some know-how, check out my Patreon. I do go over, well, at this point, all of the customs since I started Patreon. I go over the processes in depth, so make sure you check that out if you're interested, and make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.